You've been able to speak to your son.
What did you say to him when you visited him in court? Is he doing? How are you feeling today?
I can't defend you anymore, Dad. These words echoed through the courtroom as Diddy's son delivered testimony that left the music mogul visibly shaken, unable to meet his son's gaze. What followed was 7 minutes of devastating revelations that had jurors leaning forward in their seats and prosecutors exchanging knowing glances. The family loyalty that Diddy counted on for his defense strategy just crumbled before everyone's eyes.
The last hearing before Sean Combs' trial starts. When he walked into federal court today, he appeared to be looking for his family. They've pretty much been at all of the hearings that I've been to, but there was no presence of his sons or his mother or his sister who had previously been at those hearings.
After judges ruled that he would be a threat to intimidate witnesses and victims if released. The 17-page indictment against Combs accuses him of using employees of his business endeavors, including record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcoholic spirits company, a marketing agency, a media company, and television network to facilitate his crimes through acts that included kidnapping, arson, and bribery. If convicted on all charges, which include racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transporting people across state lines to engage in prostitution, Combs faces a possible sentence of decades in prison.
Well, Bill and Sade, accepting a plea agreement would mean that Sean Combs would have to admit to trafficking and force. And today he made it very clear that was not going to happen. Diddy maintained all along these encounters involved consenting adults and plans to take his chances that a jury agrees.
Well, it's not up to me. It's up to Mr. Combs, and I don't see it happening.
Why?
Because he believes he's innocent. He believes he's innocent. And what's more, he believes that he needs to stand up, not just for himself, for his family, and for everybody who's been targeted by the federal government.
What was going through Diddy's mind that morning as he sat at the defense table? He looked confident, calm. Even his custom Italian suit probably cost more than what most people make in a month. 5 high-powered attorneys surrounded him, occasionally leaning into whisper updates he had. No idea his own son was about to change everything outside the courthouse. It was pure chaos. News vans lined the street. Reporters stood shoulder fighting for position. Fans held signs saying "Free Diddy," while protesters waved banners with much less supportive messages. The police had set up metal barricades just to keep everyone in check inside. It was almost eerily quiet. The courtroom had that heavy wood paneling that seems to absorb sound. Security guards stood at every exit. 2 officers positioned themselves directly behind Diddy's chair. The prosecution team sat just feet away, arranging papers with precise movements. Then it happened. The prosecutor stood up and said, "Your Honor, the people call Justin Combs to the stand." Diddy's face changed in an instant. His jaw tightened, his shoulders stiffened for just a second. His eyes went wide before he controlled his expression. He turned to his lead attorney, grabbing his arm mid-sentence. The lawyers hadn't expected this. They huddled together, papers rustling. Voices urgent but hushed. The lead attorney kept shaking his head. Another one flipped frantically through a legal pad. They looked like a football team whose playbook just got stolen. The judge, who'd been mostly expressionless all morning, leaned forward. "I want to remind everyone in this courtroom that outbursts will not be tolerated. Any disruption will result in immediate removal." She looked directly at Diddy. As she said it, the courtroom layout wasn't random. The prosecution had arranged for Justin to enter through a side door. The furthest from where Diddy sat. They wanted distance between father and son. They wanted everyone to see the gap in the gallery. The tension was visible. Diddy's current girlfriend sat in the front row directly behind his chair. 3 rows back, his ex and mother of his children sat stone-faced. They didn't look at each other once all morning. A court officer moved to stand directly in Diddy's sightline. Another positioned himself at the entrance, where Justin would walk in. The bailiff adjusted Histon's hand, resting slightly closer to his weapon than before. When the door finally opened, the shift in energy was instant. Justin walked in, escorted by a court officer. He wore a simple navy suit, no flashy jewelry, haircut, short. Diddy's face crumbled for a split second. Raw emotion broke through: shock, hurt, betrayal, all mixed together. He tried to catch his son's eye leaning forward slightly. Justin never looked his way. Not once he walked to the witness stand, raised his right hand and swore to tell the truth while staring straight at the prosecutor. The court reporter typed rapidly. The jurors leaned forward. Diddy's empire, his freedom, his legacy. Everything now hung in the balance of what his son might say next. The prosecution team exchanged glances. The lead attorney had a slight smile. They'd been waiting for this moment as Justin sat down and adjusted the microphone. Diddy's hands gripped the edge of the eatable so hard his knuckles turned white.
What happens is if people go into a trial believing the firepower on the prosecution is so strong, I mean, let's say on a scale of 1 to 100, it's a 95 that it's so strong, but it goes down to an 88. That helps the defense because everybody goes in thinking, wow, they're going to prove this, and they're going to prove this, and they're going to prove this, and all of a sudden, none of it's there. I think that actually helps the defense.
Back up a little bit, please. How can you support your father? How do you support him moving forward?
What made you come here to support Puff?
I'm supporting Puff because he's innocent, and I'm wholeheartedly believing his innocence, and I know he's innocent. So,
You say you know he's innocent?
1,000%.
Mr. Combs feels A, he's innocent, which is why he's not going to plead guilty. B, he's going to be truthful about this case because he wants to portray that to the people who have loved him his whole life. And I think he also feels an obligation to people in general. Maybe it's black people, maybe it's white people, maybe it's anybody who's ever felt aggrieved and targeted by the government. He feels an obligation to those people to say, you know what? Maybe I can break the model. Maybe I can show the world that a black man can win, in federal court. And I think he probably is the only person I know of who might be able to actually accomplish that.
What exactly was Diddy standing to lose if his son's testimony went badly? The answer is far more than just his freedom. Diddy faced serious trafficking charges, racketeering, and witness intimidation. If convicted on all counts, he could spend up to 45 years in prison at his age. That's basically a life sentence. The prosecution's case had major holes before Justin agreed to testify. They had some text messages, financial records showing suspicious payments, and a few witnesses with shaky credibility, but they lacked that smoking gun. Someone from Diddy's inner circle who could confirm what actually happened. Behind closed doors, Diddy's entire defense strategy revolved around family loyalty. His lawyers painted him as a dedicated father, a family man who'd been unfairly targeted. They brought childhood photos to court showing Diddy at his kids' sports games and graduations. They emphasized how he kept his children close even as his empire grew. This story was working until Justin walked into that courtroom. The financial stakes were massive too. Diddy's business empire generates around $90 million annually. Hune's Bad Boy Entertainment, his clothing line Shah Jahan, a vodka partnership worth millions, real estate in multiple states, and streaming contracts that would disappear if he's convicted. His team estimated he could lose up to $700 million in assets and future earnings if found guilty for decades. Diddy's PR team crafted his image with military precision, from Puff Daddy to P. Diddy to Just Diddy. Each rebrand carefully positioned him as evolving, maturing. They transformed him from a music producer to a respected businessman. That carefully constructed image was crumbling. With each new headline, the celebrity exodus had already begun. Artists who once fought to be photographed with Diddy suddenly couldn't remember meeting him. Former collaborators released statements, distancing themselves from any illegal activity. His annual parties, once the hottest tickets in entertainment, saw RSVPs drying up. Justin Bieber, who once considered Diddy a mentor, hadn't returned his calls in months. The prosecution timed Justin's testimony perfectly. They waited until Diddy had spent weeks in court looking composed, confident. They let his lawyers build their family man narrative. Then they brought in his own son to tear it all down. The psychological impact was devastating. You could literally see Diddy's confident facade crack. Would Justin's words save or destroy his father? The courtroom seemed to hold its breath if Justin supported his father's version of events. The jury might dismiss the other witnesses as opportunists. But if Justin confirmed what prosecutors suspected, Diddy's carefully constructed defense would collapse instantly. the 3 key accusations prosecutors needed. Justin, to confirm were damning first, that Diddy had used his businesses to hide payments related to illegal activities. Second, that he had threatened witnesses who planned to testify against him. And most significantly, that Justin had personally witnessed his father engaging in the very activities described in the indictment, not just once, but repeatedly over several years. As Justin cleared his throat and leaned toward the microphone, the prosecutor's question hung in the air. Mr. Combs, did you ever witness your father engage in these activities at his home? The courtroom went completely silent even. The court reporter stopped typing for armament, waiting for the answer that could send Diddy to prison for decades.
A federal judge has denied Sean Diddy Combs' efforts to delay the start of his upcoming sex trafficking trial. The music mogul appeared in court today. His legal team wanted to push the trial start date by 2 months, saying they needed more time to prepare because of new charges filed earlier this month. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all federal counts, including racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
The judge denied this immediately when we got into court today. What he said to Combs' attorneys is, for one, this request came very last minute. This trial is supposed to start in weeks. We're supposed to begin jury selection soon, and that he thinks that they have sufficient time to prepare. He even made the point, Lindsay, that it's unclear to him why Combs can't prepare when he has 4 different law firms working on his case. A few other things that the judge said today is he's going to allow in drafts of a memoir that was written by one of the victims. However, the defense had also wanted her diaries and bank statements. The judge is not going to allow that.
The courtroom fell completely silent as Justin Combs approached the witness stand. What made even the most seasoned court reporters lean forward was his posture, shoulders squared, chin up, but eyes deliberately fixed on the prosecutor. Not once did he glance in his father's direction. This wasn't a reluctant witness. This was someone who'd made a difficult decision. Please state your name for the record, the clerk said. Justin Dior Combs. He replied, his voice steady but quiet. The microphone picked up a slight tremor. On his last name, he placed his hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and sat down, his hands folded neatly in his lap. No fidgeting, he wore a simple gold watch, a high school graduation gift from his father, but no other jewelry. The prosecutor started gently simple questions about Justin's education, his relationship with his family, his current job, classic technique to build comfort. With a nervous witness, you grew up in your father's home, is that correct? The prosecutor asked. Justin nodded before, remembering to say yes. He cleared his throat. The judge offered him water, which he accepted with a polite, thank you, 20ft away. Diddy shifted in his seat. The physical distance between them seemed symbolic of something much deeper. Justin had always been the son, most like his father, same confident walk, same business instincts. Now they couldn't have seemed further apart. Your father has stated under oath that he never conducted business meetings in the private areas of his homes. Is that accurate? The prosecutor asked. Justin paused, taking a sip of water. No, that's not accurate. His first direct contradiction of his father's testimony. Several jurors started writing. The defense attorney scribbled furiously on his legal pad. Diddy's attempts to catch his son's attention grew more obvious. He tilted his head slightly, trying to enter Justin's field of vision. He coughed. Quietly, he tapped his finger on the table in a pattern they used to share. 2 quick taps, pause, 3 taps, a code from Justin's childhood that meant, I've got your back. Justin never looked over, not when Diddy shifted his chair with a loud scrape. Not when Diddy whispered something to his attorney that made the attorney place a warning hand on his arm. The testimony built steadily toward its devastating conclusion. Justin described birthday parties that turned into business meetings. He talked about conversations he overheard while pretending to be asleep on the couch. Each revelation was worse than the last, each one filling gaps in the prosecution's timeline. Mr. Combs, we're approaching some difficult questions, the prosecutor said, her voice softening. Take your time. The courtroom tension spiked. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. It was then that Diddy made his most desperate attempt at silent communication. Court officers later documented how he made intense eye contact when Justin finally glanced his way. Diddy gave small, subtle head shakes. No, no, no. His fingers formed what appeared to be the letter F, their old family signal for family first. The most telling moment came when Justin finally looked directly at his father for 3 full seconds. They locked eyes across the courtroom. Justin's expression didn't change. He turned back to the prosecutor and said clearly into the microphone, I'm ready for those questions now. The prosecutor nodded and asked, "Did you ever personally witness your father threaten anyone who planned to speak against him?" Justin leaned forward slightly as prepared to answer.
He's also going to allow in outtakes from a documentary called The Fall of Diddy of potential witnesses in this case. And then a lot of today's discussion today, Lindsay, was about victim anonymity. There are 3 alleged victims who the government wants to testify, and they want them to testify under pseudonyms. The defense has agreed about one of them, known as victim number 2, but the 2 others, they want their names revealed in court. So the judge has now said that those 3 victims will testify anonymously. The other thing that they discussed for quite a while was expert testimony. There are experts that the government and defense want to bring in to speak to what can happen when a victim has allegedly been sexually abused. And the judge thought the key point was that you can't infer just because someone stayed in a relationship or didn't talk about abuse sooner.
"I can't defend you anymore." Justin's words cut through the courtroom like a knife. His voice steady, but his hands gripped the edge of the witness stand. "I've been lying to myself for years about what I saw. It's time for the truth." The prosecutor nodded, encouragingly. "Can you tell us what you witnessed on March 12th of last year? At your father's Miami residence, Justin described walking into his father's home office. Unexpectedly, he found Diddy threatening a former assistant who wanted to quit. He had him backed against the wall. He said if the guy talked to anyone about what he'd seen, he'd never work again in this industry." Justin's voice got quieter. Then he said he knew where the guy's mother lived. The courtroom went completely still. Justin's testimony directly contradicted Diddy's sworn statement that he never threatened anyone in my employee. The prosecutor displayed a family photo from that weekend. "Is this the visit you're referring to?" Justin confirmed it was. Then she pulled up text messages Justin sent to his girlfriend. "That night, Dad's losing it. Scary stuff happening here." Justin's voice changed when he described another incident. It became almost mechanical, like he was detaching himself from the memory. "Christmas 2020. Dad thought everyone was asleep. I came downstairs for water and saw him with 3 of his business partners. They were counting cash stacks of it and arguing about payments to people I didn't know." This testimony aligned perfectly with financial records the prosecution had already presented showing unexplained cash withdrawals. The most damning part came when Justin revealed private family conversations Dad always told us. Family meetings stay in the family. That was his #1 rule. He described how Diddy would gather the family after any public scandal and coach them on what to say. He made us rehearse answers to questions reporters might ask. We had to practice until he was satisfied. The courtroom fell silent when the prosecutor asked, "What made you finally decide to testify against your father?" Justin looked down. "I found journal entries. My little sister wrote she was scared all the time. Said she couldn't sleep because of things she saw." His voice broke. "I couldn't let her grow up thinking that was normal." Justin then provided specific dates and locations that filled crucial gaps in the prosecution's timeline. He recalled exactly who attended certain meetings, what was discussed, even where people sat. This detailed memory seemed to surprise even the prosecutors. The room tensed as the prosecutor approached her final questions. "Mr. Combs, we need to discuss what happened at the family gathering on July 4th, 2021. Justin took a deep breath. "That was the day I knew I had to get away." From him, what followed stunned the entire courtroom. Justin revealed that during that private family gathering, Diddy had assembled his children and closest associates. He made everyone surrender their phones, which were placed in a locked box. Then Diddy admitted to crimes the prosecution hadn't even charged him with yet. He detailed how he built a system of blackmail and intimidation to control people in the industry. He was proud of it. Justin said he told us this was how real business worked. He said, "He was teaching us so we could take over someday." The final blow came when Justin revealed that Diddy had recorded this meeting himself as a family legacy video and that Justin knew exactly where to find it.
Yeah,
Stephanie, I think the defense is going to look for people who are open to non-traditional lifestyles, who can receive evidence of what defense will sort of style as sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and not get put off and not rush to judgment. On the flip side, the prosecution is going to be looking for folks who are not going to be distracted by, the new shiny object over here, who are not going to get off course by any kind of circus the Diddy team may try to bring into this trial.
So, I mean, this has garnered much media attention. How does that factor in when it comes to selecting a jury? Because no doubt most people have heard of what is going on.
Totally. So it presents a significant problem. Here's the thing. The judge wants to find jurors who are fair and impartial and who have not already developed an opinion as to Diddy's guilt or innocence. Well, that's hard when every media outlet in the world has covered this case. They've likely already heard about it. And so what the judge is going to have to do is determine how much exposure the potential jurors have had to this Diddy saga and whether they can put that aside and simply base their verdict on what happens inside that courtroom and not everything that has gone on preceding that.
The room fell silent as Justin finished speaking. 5 seconds passed. 10 nobody moved. Then came the whispers. First, just a few. Then a wave of them spread across the courtroom like wildfire. The judge banged her gavel twice order she commanded her voice cutting. Through the growing noise, Diddy seemed to physically shrink in his seat. His shoulders caved inward, the confident music mogul who strutted into court. That morning was gone. In his place sat Eamon, who looked 10 years older. His complexion had turned ashen. He leaned toward his lead attorney and whispered. Something urgently, the attorney shook his head in response. The jury couldn't take their eyes off Justin. 3 jurors wrote so frantically their pens seemed ready to tear through their notepads. Juror number 8, a middle-aged teacher, kept looking between father and son, her expression a mix of shock and sadness. Juror 12. A retired accountant had stopped writing altogether and just stared open-mouthed at Justin. The prosecution team maintained their professional composure, but small tales gave them away. The lead prosecutor pressed her lips together to suppress a smile. Her second chair subtly tapped his spin twice on the table. Their known signal that testimony had exceeded expectations. The youngest prosecutor didn't even try to hide her reaction, nodding along as Justin spoke about the family video. Diddy's defense team sprang into emergency mode. The lead attorney scribbled a note and passed it down the line. 2 others flipped through documents with increasing panic. The most senior attorney finally stood up. Your Honor, given this unexpected testimony, request a 30-minute recess to confer with our client. His voice wavered slightly. A man who knew his case was imploding. The gallery reaction split down family lines. Diddy's mother covered her face. With her hands, his current girlfriend glared at Justin with unconcealed hatred. But Justin's mother nodded supportively at her son 3 rows back. Justin's sister wiped tears from her eyes while maintaining eye contact with her brother. Silently supporting him, court reporters practically ran from the room the moment. The judge called a brief recess when tripped over his own feet, rushing to be first with the breaking news. Phone notifications throughout the city buzzed with alerts as the story broke across media outlets. This testimony wouldn't just change the day's proceedings, it would transform the entire trial. Justin had just handed prosecutors a roadmap to evidence they didn't know existed. He'd confirmed witnesses, accounts that the defense had spent weeks trying to discredit. Most devastatingly, he'd revealed his father had documented his own crimes. The moment that even made the defense attorneys visibly pale came when Justin mentioned specific dates and account numbers for transfers. Dad kept 2 sets of books. Justin explained the official ones for his businesses, and the ones he kept in a password-protected app, disguised as a chess gameman. His phone this directly contradicted the defense's central argument that all financial transactions were legitimate business expenses. The lead defense attorney's pen froze mid-sentence. Another attorney closed his eyes briefly, as if physically pained. A third began frantically texting on his phone, under the table presumably, to their financial expert witnesses, who would now need to completely revise their testimony in just 7 minutes of testimony. The entire case transformed. But what happened right after court adjourned showed just how badly Diddy's defense had been shattered, too. Pieces Judge Marilyn Chen wasted no time making rulings that shifted the entire trial in light of Mr. Combs' testimony. I'm denying the defense motion to exclude evidence from the Miami recidents. I'm also authorizing a new search warrant specifically for the family video mentioned in testimony. Diddy's attorneys jumped to their feet to object, but the judge simply raised her hand, save it for tomorrow. Counselors, Diddy's high-priced legal team, huddled in the corner of the courtroom, looking more like panicked interns than seasoned attorneys. The lead lawyer kept shaking. His head, another one loosened his tie. Like he couldn't breathe. They spread documents across a table, crossing out entire sections of their defense's strategy, with angry pen strokes. One attorney was overheard saying, "We need to discuss a plea deal now." Meanwhile, the prosecution team moved like sharks smelling blood. They filed 3 new motions within hours. The first requested access to all of Diddy's electronic devices based on Justin's revelation about the hidden accounting app. The second asked to add 5 new witnesses to their list. The third was sealed from public view, but courthouse sources confirmed it involved additional charges. The media explosion was instant. Justin's testimony made headlines everywhere, from TMZ to the Wall Street Journal. News helicopters hovered over the courthouse. Social media flooded with video clips of Diddy's face as Justin spoke. One body language expert's tweet went viral. "Watch, his left hand shaking. He knows it's over legal." Experts didn't mince words about what this meant for Diddy. CNN's legal analyst said, "In 20 years covering trials, I've never seen a defendant's case collapse this dramatically in real time." Justin Combs didn't just damage his father's defense, he obliterated it. Another expert on Fox News added, "Prosecutors couldn't have dreamed of a better witness. Who better to destroy your carefully crafted family man image than your own son?" Even more damaging, 3 potential witnesses who had previously refused to testify suddenly contacted prosecutors after seeing Justin break ranks. 2 former business partners and 1 household staff member now wanted to share their stories. This domino effect was exactly what prosecutors had hoped for. Security concerns emerged immediately. Court officers had to separate family members, who began arguing in the hallway. Justin required a police escort to his car. The judge ordered additional security for all. Jurors after 2 reported being approached by strangers asking about the case. How would this testimony affect their? Remainder of the trial defense attorneys were spotted calling their scheduled witnesses, presumably telling them not to show up. Prosecutors rearranged their witness list to capitalize on Justin's revelations. Legal experts predicted the trial might end weeks earlier than expected. The judge's call for order after Justin's testimony wasn't just about courtroom decorum. What reporters didn't see was the threat that prompted a full lockdown. Court documents revealed that during Justin's testimony, security intercepted a man trying to enter with fake credentials. He claimed to work for Diddy's team, in his bag a voice recorder and $10,000 cash. This security breach forced the judge to order a complete courtroom lockdown and emergency security review for the remainder of the trial. As Diddy left the courtroom that day, he wasn't surrounded by his usual flashy entourage, just grim-faced attorneys rushing him toward a waiting SUV with tinted windows. The powerful music mogul who controlled rooms with his presence now looked small, defeated. His son's words changed everything. The testimony that was supposed to save him became the turning point that might send him to prison for decades. Diddy built his empire on loyalty, image, and family. Now his own son's truth tore it all down in 7 minutes flat. The case isn't over. But one thing is certain: